from the broadcast studio, hitting in the static. This ain't no bedtime story, son, it's prophetic. Encrypted signals from the shadows of the garden. We dig where the dirt got secrets, no parting. Microphone alchemist, scriptures with a twist. Peep the frequency, seeds in the mist. We drop bars like plagues, revelations in the cadence. Broadcasting truth while they trapped in surveillance. Wisdom with a watchman's blade. Fourth watch style while your whole system fade. Blood moons, Nephilim, echoes in the pine. Sasquatch stomping through the fault lines of time. We ain't mainstream, we ancient stream. Cipher with the prophets, decode the dream. So if you tuned in, better guard your mind. It's broadcasting seeds and we breaking the design.
So, Lockwood, Trump, Tesla, and the timeline we're not supposed to see. All right, friends. I want you to take a deep breath because what we're about to get into, this isn't just another mystery or an old book with some weird coincidences. This is the one. You're listening to Broadcasting Seeds, and this episode, this right here, is the full tilt dive into Ingersoll Lockwood, the man behind a stack of books that frankly shouldn't exist the way that they do. We're talking Baron Trump, The Last President, Time Travel, Tesla, esoteric breadcrumbs, and a strange character named Don Fume, who may not be a fictional character at all. And no, we're not just recapping the original episode that I did, and it's my most popular episode. This is a full expansion, a deeper investigation, and really an update. And for those of you who've been following the trail, you already know this is the most requested, most downloaded, and most talked about topic I've ever covered, period. I don't necessarily understand that and why that is, because it's not, to me, it's not one of my best episodes. But I want to be clear about something. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to lay the story out, the real story, so you can start connecting the dots for yourself. Because if you're paying attention, you're going to realize very quickly this isn't fiction anymore. And what if I told you that a man born in 1841, a lawyer and diplomat appointed by Abraham Lincoln, wrote a series of books that seem to forecast Donald Trump, Barron Trump, riots on Fifth Avenue, political collapse, global reset, secret knowledge, underground cities, ancient symbolism, and time distortion? And what if I told you that the man who analyzed Tesla's confiscated notebooks, John G. Trump, was Donald Trump's own uncle? And we've talked about that in another episode. But I'm putting these together because there is some overlap. But bottom line is, these aren't wild leaps. These are documented facts, and the only thing missing is what you do with them. So today, we're pulling all the threads: Lockwood, Tesla, Trump, timelines, secret manuscripts, prophetic dreams, and power structures you were never supposed to question. I'm going to walk you through each book Lockwood wrote, tie them to real-world events, and show you how this rabbit hole goes deeper than anyone's ever dared to admit. And maybe you'll start to see the same pattern that I did, and that many others have as well. And yeah, I'm asking you now, like, share, and review this podcast. This one's going to plant some seeds, and I want to make damn sure that they grow. So let's start this off. The Lockwood legacy, he's more than just a writer. Let's start with the man himself. Ingersoll Lockwood wasn't some eccentric recluse spinning yarns from a dusty attic. He was born in 1941 in Ossining, New York, same town that houses Sing Sing Prison. And no, that's not a throwaway detail. His dad, his father, Munson Ingersoll Lockwood, wasn't just the warden there. He was a general in the New York State militia, a lawyer, and a close friend to Henry Clay, who was one of the most influential political minds of the 19th century. So Munson Lockwood also raised money for Lajos Kossuth, the Hungarian revolutionary. I'm not sure if I pronounced that name correctly, but that's going to happen a couple times in this episode. The Hungarian revolutionary who was basically the poster child for anti-globalist sentiment in his time. And Munson helped found a bank, established Dale Cemetery, and ran civic circles like he was setting up a shadow government. This wasn't a normal family and was a family of power players. So young Ingersoll grows up steeped in law, steeped in politics, global ideals, and instead of becoming a Wall Street puppet, he pivots. First, he's appointed by President Abraham Lincoln himself as the U.S. consul to Hanover, which was in Germany in those days, at just 21 years old. Think about that. You're barely old enough to drink. Well, drink now. And suddenly you're stationed in one of Europe's most elite cultural hubs. Now, here's where the timing gets interesting. Slightly. That's loose, but it's still there. In that same region, Karlstad, Bavaria, Frederick Trump, Donald Trump's grandfather, would be born just a few years later in 1869. Now, Lockwood's time in Hanover was in the early 1860s. So was there contact? It's unlikely. But the terms of geopolitical overlap and proximity, it raises eyebrows. So one man leaves Europe with blueprints in his mind. Another man's bloodline rises to power 150 years later. It's not proof, but it's not nothing either. So when Lockwood returned to the States, he practiced law with his brother Henry Clay Lockwood, named after the same Henry Clay who mentored their father. But soon Ingersoll walked away from the courtrooms and the contracts and into something much stranger. Between 1890 and 1896, he released a series of books that, if you read them today, hit like a punch to the gut. Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog, Bulger, Book 1. Second, you have Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, Book 2. And then the third book has two titles, 1900 or The Last President. Then you have Laconics of Cult, and his final book, a poetry collection. It's titled In Varying Mood, or Jetsam, Flotsam, and Liegen. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what it is. So what connects them isn't just the strange names or obscure publishing dates. It's the feeling you get when you read them now, like you're not supposed to be reading them. Like they weren't written for people in the 1890s. Let me be blunt. Ingersoll Lockwood was either insanely ahead of his time or he was writing from outside of time entirely. His Baron Trump books follow a young aristocrat on a guided journey to an underground civilization filled with symbolism, time loops, ancient wisdom, and altered perception. His political thriller, The Last President, outlines mass unrest, class warfare, and a political outsider rising to power in a way that sounds eerily like 2016. And then there's Laconic's of Cult, where Lockwood drops the mask, no more fiction, just straight up reflections on corruption, shadow rulers, and truth behind that are hidden in plain sight. It's like he knew he had to switch gears and just say it outright before time ran out. You can't ignore this pattern. Lockwood's entire literary career unfolded like a layered riddle. First the fantasy, then the political revelation, then the philosophical manifesto, and finally, poetry that reads like a farewell to this world and a veiled dispatch to the next. This wasn't entertainment. It was intentional. He was planting something we weren't supposed to find, maybe until now. So, Baron Trump's Underground Odyssey, is it allegory or actuality? Now, we head down the spiral. Let's talk about Baron Trump. His actual name in the book is Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump. Lockwood didn't just create a precocious boy in a castle. He gave him a mission and he handed him a guide. Not a man, not a wizard, but a manuscript. A 15th century document penned by, here we go with the pronunciation, Don Constantino Bartolomeo Strepholofidgeguaneriusfum. That's where we got it. Known simply as Don Fume. All right. I'll put the name in the show notes so you can, maybe there's some sort of code in there or something, but either way. You see, this isn't your typical hero's journey. This is a map within a mystery, a cryptic alchemical guidebook titled A World Within a World. That phrase alone set off alarm bells for me. This isn't Peter Pan or Alice in Wonderland. This is Lockwood whispering through history. With Bulger, his loyal dog, at his side, Baron departs Castle Trump and heads to Russia. Not England, not Spain, not anywhere else on the tourist map. Russia. In fact, Siberia. The frigid threshold between our known world and the ancient unknown. Why? Because that's where the entrance to the world beneath lies. The journey isn't random, it's strategic. And the further Baron goes, the weirder this all gets. So, we've got the frozen wastes and time distortion within this book. And Baron traverses frozen tundras, stumbles upon time-warping valleys, and meets beings that don't live in time the way that we do. They're ageless. They're eternal. He's warned. He's tested. And most importantly, he begins to lose his sense of what's actually real. And the book doesn't use modern terms, but let's not pretend we don't recognize the signs. Dimensional bleed through, chrono slippage, and temporal displacement. We're talking about time travel. Not with flux capacitors, but with cosmic permission. Think about how many explorers and mystics over the centuries have written about hidden lands, inner Earth, and shifting realities beneath the ice, from Hyperborea to Agartha to the Nazi obsession with hollow Earth myths. This isn't fiction. It's basically pattern recognition. Next, we have the world turtle, which, oh my gosh. Now, this is a turning point. Deep within the subterranean realm, Baron encounters a being not hostile, not even sentient in the way we measure it, but sacred. The world turtle. Massive, ancient, silent. The kind of presence that shuts everything up inside you. And yet, in that silence, it speaks volumes. The turtle doesn't fight. It doesn't move quickly. It's a turtle. It simply exists as it has always existed. The word world turtle is a universal archetype found in Hindu, Chinese, Native American, Mesoamerican myth. It holds the weight of the cosmos on its back. It represents balance, wisdom, and the eternal nature of truth. And here it is, tucked into a 19th century children's book like it's just another plot point. But it's not. This is the moment Baron, the impulsive young aristocrat, is brought to a full stop. His mind is forced into stillness. He has to watch, listen, and most importantly, wait. It's the turtle that teaches him the nature of reality, that not everything is meant to be conquered. Some things are meant to be understood through stillness. Sound familiar? This echoes through every major esoteric teaching. Hermeticism, Buddhism, Christian mysticism. The still point, the place between. Lockwood was embedding sacred archetypes into what most people mistook for fantasy. Now we move to the hollow earth and the esoteric underground. Baron's journey then continues through what can only be described as hollow earth cities, civilizations that live beneath the crust, operating on different laws of nature, possessing technology and spiritual insight far beyond what's going on in the surface world. This concept isn't just pulled from a novelist's hat. It parallels the journeys of, I'm going to say it, Admiral Byrd, the Agartha legends, and even the inner earth speculations of theosophy and Nazi occult science. The deeper Baron goes, the more unrecognizable reality becomes. He's in a world that doesn't follow our rules, where time is nonlinear, thoughts shape matter, and identity begins to dissolve. So what was Lockwood really writing? Because that's the question that's hung over this book for over a century. Was this just fantasy, a clever allegory, or was Lockwood trying to encode something hidden, sacred, or dangerous into a narrative that would only make sense to us right now? Because here's what we know. He wrote about a boy named Baron Trump decades before the real one existed. Really, 100 years. He placed that boy in Russia following a manuscript of ancient knowledge into a hollow earth realm of higher beings and timeless truth. He embedded the world turtle, a symbol of cosmic architecture, right in the middle of the story. And he ended the journey not with conquest, but with contemplation. This was not a children's book. This was a riddle in plain sight, a mythic map disguised as fiction. And it begs the next question. If Barron Trump's underground journey was the initiation, then the last president must have been the prophecy. The last president, a warning ignored. Now, this is where things stop being symbolic and start sounding scripted. All right. 1900 or The Last President isn't subtle. It opens with an America in full collapse. Panic on the streets of New York. A political outsider has just won the presidency, and the people, those who'd been fed on fear, on class rage and hopelessness, they erupt. Sound familiar? Let's talk specifics. The opening chapter lays out death to the rich man, death to the gold bugs, death to the capitalists. Give us back the money you've ground out of us. Give us back the marrow of our bones, which you've used to grease the wheels of your chariots. That isn't just discontent, that's a civil reckoning. And the mob, they're not headed for the Capitol or the White House. They're marching down Fifth Avenue. Let that sit for a second. Fifth Avenue. Same Fifth Avenue where Trump Tower now stands. In the book, their first target is the Fifth Avenue Hotel. And as the chaos unfolds, the gas lines are blown, the power grid goes down, the streets are lit by the flames of mansions burning. That's not a metaphor, that's war. The silver standard collapses. The newly elected administration embraces silver, not gold. It's called the Silver Administration. And at first, the people rejoice. Silver floods the economy, prices surge, loans are cheap, wages go up, but then it all unravels. The government can't hold the value of silver. The economy implodes, inflation rips through the country like wildfire. And here's what Lockwood writes. The country had been literally submerged by a silver flood, every nook and cranny of the republic. The spirit of greed and gain lodged in every mind. Farmers started planting where they shouldn't. Investors buy land they'll never visit. Widows cash out their savings for land they'll never step foot on. To me, it sounds like 2008 or the dot-com bubble or crypto scams. Housing market crashes. Wow. It's all here, but written in 1896. Financial tyranny. As the system buckles, the government clamps down. Massive new taxes on the rich, on yachts, on luxury imports, on wills, on inheritances. Restrictions on trading public assets. You could go to prison for life just for buying bonds at the wrong time. Tariffs double on imported goods to punish the wealthy, and billions in public money go to dredge harbors, dig canals, and fund infrastructure that fills up as fast as it's built, like a New Deal cranked up to 11. On paper, it's economic justice. In practice, though, it's pure chaos. Populism weaponized. The book doesn't name the president, but he's described as a man not from the political world, a man despised by elites and adored by the common people. He wins not by charm, but by rage. He's a symbol not a statesman. And once in power, he's both loved and feared. The system around him cracks. The republic teeters. Lockwood wasn't trying to craft a tight political drama. He was building a pressure chamber and then lighting the fuse. So let's zoom out. When Lockwood wrote this, America was deep in financial instability. The populist William Jennings Bryan was pushing the silver standard. There was growing fear that the system would implode. So yes, Lockwood was reacting to his world, but the way he framed it, it wasn't a parable. It was like it was a blueprint. He describes an outsider rising through chaos, riots in Manhattan, economic collapse, a populist revolution, and the end of the financial elite, and the fear that this might be the last presidency. This wasn't just political fiction. It's like prophetic modeling. And here's the part that haunts people the most. The book ends with everything still unraveling. There's no clear, clean resolution, no heroic finale, just a question hanging in the air. What happens when the last president can't hold the center? Let's bring this into 2024. Massive inflation, and still going on now. Digital currencies, billionaires fleeing to bunkers, talk of civil unrest, political outsiders rising again, elites terrified of losing control. And meanwhile, Lockwood's book, hidden for over a century, starts circulating like a ghost that was waiting for this moment. This wasn't just a book. It was a seed. And now, frankly, it's sprouting. So the real question is, who watered it? That's what I'm asking. Tesla, time travel, and John Trump entered the fringe. So we've gone from children's fantasy to political prophecy. Now, let's crack open the lid on something deeper, stranger, and far more controversial, the Tesla connection. This is the Tesla connection to Donald Trump. Because when you look at Ingersoll Lockwood's work through the lens of time, there's a question that just keeps surfacing. Was someone manipulating time or watching it unfold from outside? That brings us straight to Nikola Tesla, John G. Trump, and the curiously persistent rumors that surround them. Okay? The death of Tesla and his mysterious papers. Nikola Tesla, visionary, inventor, enemy of Edison, prophet of wireless energy, died alone in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel in 1943. Almost immediately, the U.S. government swooped in. More specifically, the Office of Alien Property Confiscation, the Office of Alien Property confiscated all of Tesla's personal belongings, including notebooks, diagrams, and experimental research, some of which were rumored to involve particle beams, time warping, and interdimensional resonance. And who was brought in to review these papers? Dr. John G. Trump, an electrical engineer and physicist, MIT professor, and yes, Donald J. Trump's uncle. Let that settle. Tesla dies, his notes disappear, Trump's uncle is the man chosen to review them and declare what's harmless and what's not. Officially, the story goes like this. John Trump found the papers to be speculative and of no real danger. Unofficially, the theories that spun out of that moment were some of the most persistent time travel conspiracies ever conceived. Here's what the alternative narrative suggests. Tesla discovered a method for manipulating space and time, possibly involving resonant frequencies, scalar fields, and harmonic interference. The government covered it all up. John G. Trump reviewed the notes, understood their potential, and quietly fed that knowledge to future generations. And one of those recipients? His nephew, Donald J. Trump. And here's where things get wild. In the 1980s, Donald Trump used the pseudonym John Barron, a name suspiciously close to Barron Trump, the fictional protagonist Lockwood wrote about in the 1890s. Was it just a coincidence? An inside joke? A psychological trick? Or was it something else? If you ever dipped your toes into high strangeness research, you've heard about the Philadelphia experiment. The alleged U.S. Navy test in 1943 that rendered a ship invisible and may have accidentally ripped open a tear in space-time. Sounds crazy? Sure. But the year matches Tesla's death. The project was allegedly based on Tesla's theories, and the aftermath was riddled with missing documents, vanished personnel, and psychotic breakdowns. Some believe Tesla pulled out of the project before it went live, warning that it was too unstable, too dangerous. And guess who else is connected to that web? The Montauk Project, another alleged military experiment dealing with time manipulation, mind control, and dimensional gateways. And who shows up in the research again and again? John G. Trump. So let's go back to Lockwood. Now here's where the loop closes. In Barron Trump's marvelous underground journey, time is not linear. Barron gets lost in time warps. He encounters beings who exist outside of time. He even seems unchanged by the passage of time, echoing the eternal youth trope. In The Last Resident, history seems to replay itself in cycles: economic collapse, political chaos, class warfare. The system collapses, rebuilds, and collapses again. And in Laconics of Cult, Lockwood writes as if he's observing the world from the outside, dropping sharp truths about corruption, control, and the illusion of freedom. This isn't just storytelling. It reads like someone trying to document a broken timeline. All right. Final threads. Let's just stack it. Lockwood writes about Barron Trump, a child guided by a book on time and secret knowledge. Trump later uses the name John Barron. Tesla dies 1943. Government seizes his papers. John G. Trump, Donald's uncle, is the one reviewing them. Tesla's theory allegedly inspired classified experiments on time travel. Lockwood's books are rediscovered during Trump's presidency over 100 years after being forgotten. This isn't a theory. It's a pattern, one that asks us, is history unfolding or is it being directed? Next up, the final piece to this puzzle. Was Lockwood trying to tell a story or leave behind a code? So, were these books coded messages? Here we are at the edge of the map. We followed the story of a forgotten author who wrote about a boy named Baron Trump, an outsider who becomes the last president, and a metaphysical framework that seems to predict our modern moment. We've followed the threads through Russia, time distortions, Tesla, secret manuscripts, and elite power structures. But what if the books themselves aren't just fiction, prophecy, or social commentary? What if they're encoded transmissions? The Conics of Cult, in 1911, after writing the previous 3 books wrapped in fiction and metaphor, Lockwood publishes Laconics of Cult, a strange little book, philosophical, fragmented, but sharp. No story, just concise truths, one-liners that stab like a knife. He writes about invisible rulers, the manipulation of public perception, the hollowness of democratic institutions, the illusion of free will, the cult of power that governs the world quietly. This isn't satire. It's Lockwood stepping out from behind the curtain and saying, I've told you the story. Now here's what it really is. This book is the cipher key. It decodes everything that came before it. It tells you how to read The Last President, not as fantasy, but as an operational manual for the breakdown of a system. It tells you how to read Baron Trump's journey, not as a children's story, but as a mythical initiation into esoteric truths hidden beneath the earth and above human perception. It also suggests something way darker, that the real world is built on rituals of repetition, run by those who understand the cycles of collapse and rebirth, and controlled by those who've memorized that script. Lockwood's last message, in 1912, Lockwood published one final work, a poetry collection called In Varying Mood, or Jetsam, Flotsam, and Lagan. Sounds harmless. But the opening lines of the preface are chilling. The end, here it is. The end has almost come. I'm only waiting for the signal to push off and begin my voyage to the Isles of the Blessed in the far western seas. It doesn't sound like a man just retiring. It sounds like a man completing a mission, a man leaving a message in a bottle for a generation who wouldn't be born for 100 years. He even writes that his little bark, his mind, is too full of ideas and conceits that won't be of use in the Isles of the Blessed. Blest, the blessed. So he throws them overboard, almost like he knew he'd said all he was allowed to say. What if these weren't just books? What if these books predict actual events with disturbing accuracy? Line up the key figures, Trump, Tesla, and John Trump. Embed ancient symbols like the world turtle, feature underground civilizations, altered time, and secret initiations. Transition from fiction to manifesto over a 6-year span. End with a poetic self-destruction. Do you think that's just art? Or is it more likely these books were a cryptid inheritance left behind by someone who understood that the only way to preserve truth is to hide it in fiction? Because here's the reality. Sometimes the people with the truth can't say it out loud. They can't say it outright. Sometimes the only way to preserve a map is to bury it in metaphor. Sometimes stories are spells, seeds meant to grow only when the time is right. And maybe that time is right now. The final convergence. This is what happens when you connect the dots. Lockwood the insider writes the narrative. Tesla cracks the code of space and time. John Trump inherits the knowledge. Donald Trump carries the name, the myth, and the energy into public consciousness. And we, the readers, the seekers, are the ones meant to uncover it. These books were never meant to be bestsellers. They were meant to be remembered, found, and decoded. Are we living the script? So here we are. You've just followed the trail through Baron Trump's journey beneath the earth, past world turtles, time distortions, thought through political collapse and prophetic fiction, down the line of Tesla, John Trump, and suppressed technology, and finally into a theory that maybe these weren't just books. Maybe they were messages. Maybe they are messages. Maybe they are codes designed to survive history, to be found by the ones who would understand them when the time was right. And now, that time is here. These aren't just curiosities for the conspiracy corners of the internet anymore. They're showing up in classrooms, on timelines, in late-night group chats. The dots are being connected slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. So I'll ask you one last time. Were these books the visions of a madman or the whispers of a time traveler? Did Lockwood write from imagination or from observation? And why does it feel like we're living inside the very story that he left behind? Maybe history doesn't repeat itself. Maybe it just runs in loops until someone pays attention. Bottom line is, if this episode hit you in the chest, if it made you rethink what's fiction, what's real, and who's writing the script, then do what we always ask. Like, share, and leave a review. It's how the show grows. It's how these stories keep spreading. And most importantly, it's how we keep planting seeds. I'm Bennett Tanton, and this is Broadcasting Seeds. Thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay grounded, and remember, sometimes the strangest stories hold the most hidden truths.
Lockwood, Trump,
See you next time.
The prophecy unfolds. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seas, can't keep it all denied. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seas, can't keep it all denied. Yo, the ink bleeds prophecy, rhyme like anomalies. Lockwood's pen scripted coded philosophies. Bearing in the tunnels with the turtle of eternity. Hollow earth sermons in the silence of the clergy. Silver floods collapse, Fifth Avenue riots. Last president's vision, the system can't quiet. Tesla with the blueprints, John Trump in the lab. Pages confiscated, government grab. Time bent like circuits, archives encrypted. Dimensions overlap, reality shifted. Baron in the castle, prophecies are written. Wu sword sharpened while the scholars stay hidden. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seas, can't keep it all denied. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seas, can't keep it all denied.
Decipher like a chamber, mathematics of the mystic. Wu style visions cut sharp and ballistic. Trump name echo through the cycles and the ages. Sun Tzu tactics in the margins of the pages. Don Fume's manuscript, world within the world. Seeds in the soil where the prophecies unfurl. John Barron pseudonym, lines get blurred. Shadows in the council, but the message still heard. Tesla's coils hum, vibrating with the ether. Broadcasting frequencies to break the gatekeeper. Lockwood described time traveler's design. Every rhyme planted like a seed in your mind. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seeds, can't keep it all denied. Written in the pages, timelines collide. Lockwood's ghost traveling through the other side. Tesla sparks the wires, truth electrified. Broadcasting them seeds, can't keep it all denied.